Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our fireside chat with Jennifer Toussaint from the Animal Welfare League of Arlington. You are all off camera, which is okay, but this is a this is an intimate conversation. We have a small group today. I don't want to pressure anyone, but we'd love to see your faces if you're able to come off camera. At ACF, we really love creating opportunities for our fund holders and friends in the community to connect more deeply with the people and organizations that are doing important work. And so today's fireside chat is an example of that. Arlington is really fortunate to have an innovative and compassionate approach to animal services, and much of that leadership comes from Jennifer. She's the Chief of Animal Control for Arlington County and a leader at the Animal Welfare League. She has served our community. Hey, Steve, it's good to see you. She's served our community for more than 14 years and has helped to build a model that integrates public safety, animal welfare, and community care. She also founded Arlington's Wildlife Resource Center, which is one of only four of such centers across the country. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are really excited to learn more about your work and the role that animal services play in keeping our community safe and compassionate and connected to the natural world around us. So let's go ahead and dive in. So Jennifer, you have been serving Arlington for more than 14 years. What first drew you to animal control and this line of work?
Yeah, so I really love talking about my origin story. And thank you so much to everybody who's joined today. We really want this to be about also what you're passionate about. So feel free to jump into the chat or ask questions. But I love telling this story actually for young people because I think how I got into this work is just so highly relatable. I was newly graduated from college. I was working as a federal lobbyist for Environment America. I've always been passionate about conservation. So me doing wildlife work makes complete sense many years later. But I felt like I wanted to see more change in the community that I actually lived. I was a transplant from New York here in Arlington. I think I knew very early on just how special the Arlington community was, especially as a young person living here. And so one night I sat around with a group of friends and said, I think I'd like to do something different. And so we got a piece of paper, a really good friend's great idea to write down all the things I was good at and then hand it around to the group and say, who is this person? And one of my very good male friends went, I think you'd make a great police officer, Jen. And another one went, no, you're one of those animal cops. And there was a show, Animal Cops Houston at the time. And so again, in your early 20s, what do? You Google it. And I looked and Arlington County had a police officer one position and a animal control officer one position. I applied for both and I got the call back just 2 days later for animal control. My intention was only to do it for a year. I had just gotten into Georgetown Law and attended and had intended to go to law school the following year. But about 3 months in, I was hooked. This work is just exactly what my soul was looking for. And over 14 years later, I'm still doing it.
Amazing. Well, we have a fair number of lawyers in Arlington, so I think you made the you made the right choice. For people who may not know much about the field, how would you describe what animal control officers do day to day?
Yeah, I think even when I took this position, this is one of those jobs where writing a job description for it is near impossible. Um, I like to say that we put our uniform on every day and we say, how can I help? And that means just something very different day by day. A little later on, I hope to kind of talk about some stories of this work because I think that's where some of the relatability really is. And and the spectrum is so broad. I've had the great privilege of working on big cat cases. I wrote our exotics law. Some days it's an apartment complex fire, it's injured wildlife, it's a person who's detained who has a pet. Your next call is an eviction. Your call after that is a cat struck by a vehicle. The diversity of the work we do is just so great. And we are the only animal people for all things animal. And so anytime there's an animal involved, which is just so easy, an animal control officer is on that scene. So we get to see the full spectrum of every inch of humanity that this community has to offer. Um, and so it is one of those positions that really is hard to define, but it is a privilege to serve.
Well, is there one call or experience that captures the range of what your team deals with?
Yeah, it's so hard. The broadness of our work is so very extreme, but I was thinking about, what I wanted to talk about today. And I think one of the things that really resonates with me when I was doing some reflection recently is what COVID felt like as a first responder. I think now that the world has reopened, when I sit around with fellow leaders and first responders, even here at a county level, all of us still have this weird shell shocked moment of what that part of our lives look like. And it was weird when the rest of all the community came back and all of you came back out, because we never went away. We were essential through all of that. So work from home was not a thing for any of us. And I think we got to see the true depths of struggle and where the resource gaps were missing in our community to meet needs. And so when I think about COVID, I think a lot of people would be like, well, how is animal control related to COVID? Um, when if you suffer a sudden medical emergency and you're transported from your home, especially if you live alone, we take your pets. And so if you're unwell, we meet your families. We're actually the first people your families meet when they come into town, if that's something that is happening. And so the other part of it was the intersectionality between mental health crisis and what we do as first responders. And I'm a CIT, a crisis intervention team trained field officer. I'm one of the instructors for CIT here in Arlington, and our mental health calls just skyrocketed. And so people are like, why are animal control out on mental health calls? And I'm like, because we specialize in it and the community needs us. We were at like this apex of an astronomical amount of calls for service related to individuals who were struggling through during that time. And so I think those are the things that a lot of people wouldn't think about when they think about animal control. We get the like, you pick up stray dogs, and that is 100% true. Please call us if you find a stray dog. That is the best part of the work. That is the soul restoring part of the work. We love meeting your pets, and safely getting them home. But the work is so much deeper than that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think about the impact of COVID on your work, and then to say nothing of all of the people who acquired new pets during that time. And so I'm sure there was fallout from that too down the line.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but many people think of wildlife as something you encounter outside of cities. Of course, during that shutdown period, we saw, at least I saw a huge spike in, in wildlife. Maybe I was home and more attuned to it. But Arlington residents see foxes, raccoon, deer, and much more. And what are the most common wildlife issues that you're called about?
Yeah, so we love to talk about our wildlife friends on a sliding scale of respectful to disrespectful.
You mean the people who are calling in or
No, the animals themselves.
wildlife itself?
No, the animals themselves. And so we have some of our larger terrestrial mammals that actually really are very high on the respectful scale. Most of you probably don't know we have bobcats in Arlington.
What?
We do, and have had breeding pairs of bobcats since 2008 in the Lubber Run community area. They're so respectful, right? Like nobody even knows they're here. Nobody even knows they're here. And if you happen to catch a glance, you're catching a glance in fall, winter, where the foliage is really low. So you're seeing them from a distance. But they're not, our raccoons who are on the other side of that disrespectful scale, who are darn near
Yes.
knocking on people's back door asking for spaghetti dinner. And so we have this like lovely spectrum. So the wildlife that we tend to get complaints or concerns about are the ones that are more easily habituated to human presence. So squirrels, foxes, crows, raccoons, they kind of are actually very good in coexisting near us. They grow up in an urban environment. So if you were born and raised in an environment and something walked past you every day and posed no harm or risk to you whatsoever, you'd get so habituated to seeing them, you're not going to run off every time. And so people are like, but it didn't run off. And I'm like, yeah, well, they'd be running 24/7 if they ran every time they saw a person. Whereas our coyotes, for instance, right over there on that respectful side of the scale, our larger raptors, similarly also on that larger respectful side of the scale, we very infrequently get calls about our hawks, our eagles, our bear that make it their way through the county. We'll get bear at least 5 to 6 every spring, summer. They're the young males that are moving forward and are moving up and following the Potomac. Very respectful, right? People might see a bear, but we don't get bear damage. They don't get into people's trash cans. They really kind of mind their own business and make their way through as quick as possible. Um, Adversely, obviously, we have the I saw the animal and I'm concerned because the raccoons and squirrels love to get into attics. And then things like deer or rabbits, anytime they're disruptive to personal gardens or foliage that we planted on our property that was perhaps expensive. They love hostas. So just as a heads
They
up, a
do.
hosta is like the lollipop in the deer world. So people love to plant non-native hostas, and they are the biggest attractant. And so we'll get those types of calls. On average, we get about 2,500 calls for service related to wildlife every
Wow.
year alone here in Arlington. So it is a big community need. Community members want information, education, resources, and field response.
So are there any misconceptions that people have about living alongside wildlife in an urban community like Arlington?
Yeah, so I sometimes think we underestimate how fantastic wildlife is as parents. And I'm just going to give a shout out to our single moms. So most wildlife is a single mom. She's a fierce single mother. The only thing that co-parents here in Arlington is coyotes and foxes. Dad stays in the mix and helps raise them throughout their younger years. But mom is doing her darndest to get them to thrive and survive in an urban environment. And so a lot of the times we'll get calls, well, this baby fawn is orphaned because I saw it down on the trail. Mom actually leaves. She parks her fawn for the first 3 weeks of their life because they have no scent whatsoever. And she will graze to keep herself alive and come back and nurse her young. So there's a lot of misconceptions. Same with birds. Birds fledge from the nest. Our songbirds have to spend 2 to 3 days on the ground building up the shoulder strength to fly. So every songbird you see flying around made it through that dangerous 72 hours on the ground. Mom
Hmm.
feeds them and will fight off predators while they are on the ground for that 72 hours. We get a lot of, I think this animal is orphaned, and really they're just in a natural part of their life cycle, and mom is there and truly defensive. Anybody who's walked up to a baby cardinal on the ground knows you need an umbrella over your head. She will come, she comes at you at 100 miles an hour out of that tree. They're fierce mothers, and they themselves were born and raised in an urban environment, so they know how to help their young kind of thrive in the same.
Excellent. Well, you founded the Wildlife Resource Center in 2020, and it's one of only four in the country. And what were you trying to solve when you created it? What problem were you trying to address?
Yeah, so what we were seeing statistically at that time was around 500 wildlife injured orphan patients coming into our organization every year and really having next to no pathway outcome. So one of the things that I like to talk about is when animals are here, it is our responsibility as a community to find humane pathways for them to thrive and survive. And so these are animals that are native to the land that we are on, especially migratory, federally protected migratory birds. We want to make sure that we're good stewards of our natural resources, and that includes wildlife. And so we were getting like critically endangered bats, green herons, and other things in, and we were struggling to find humane pathways and outcomes. And what we saw was there is nobody who invests in wildlife conservation and rehabilitation. So there's no state funding that these people can get for rehabilitation to re-release these animals to the wild. And there's no wildlife center within a multi-hour drive of Northern Virginia, including Arlington. And so as we were struggling to find these placements, what we realized is like there was a resource gap. The people to do this work just didn't exist. There was no training or center. And so what we saw though is that the Arlington community was calling us, begging us to save these lives, right? Like, please come get this tiny little orphaned thing. Please, please, please help it thrive and survive. And so we saw this as a call to action from the Arlington community, essentially asking AWLA to create that resource. And so over a period of the last 10 to 15 years, we have done wildlife conservation and grown our program, and we're now one of the gold standards in the country. So we opened the center so that we could bring on apprentices, training resources, and continue to grow that through Northern Virginia. This last year, we brought in over 1,000 patients to our wildlife center, just from Arlington County alone. So that is an astronomical amount of animals who needed a humane pathway and a resource center to critically triage them and get them to where they needed to be so they can be released to the wild.
Now, and I do want to say, if anyone, since we're a small group, if you all have questions as we're going along, you can feel free to chime in. We'll have time at the end for questions too, but I just, if there's something in particular that you want to ask Jennifer about, please do. And you can also feel free to drop any questions in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. So what actually happens when someone brings in an injured or orphaned animal? Like, what's the process?
Yeah, so they get a medical intake just like any companion animal would. They're fully physically assessed. Commonly, they end up in one of two buckets. Are we orphaned, meaning our parent is no longer unfortunately able to provide us care, with the motor vehicle being the number one threat to native wildlife? That sometimes happens. Or are we injured? And so orphaned is a pleasure because then it's bottle feeding or syringe feeding and finding them placement. Injured is that trickier area where we're assessing level of injury, maybe needing to do radiographs or x-rays. Our birds love to really fly very quickly into the sides of buildings and they can get critically injured. And then determining their next step from there. So identifying the level of injury. Are they going on to a triage hospital? Or are they going on to an in-home base or rehabilitation center? And then we provide that, once stabilized, we provide that transport till their next step. And then once they are finalized through that process, they come back to us and we release them back at their location found. So it's kind of a full circle for them. That definitely is important because we want to maintain the populations of animals that we have here, especially again for those keynote species that we need, like our bats.
I do see a question in the chat, Jen. Do Arlington public school students participate in the apprenticeship program? We know the Career Center has animal and vet tech.
Yeah, so we do partner with the Career Center to do presentations and fun things like that. We have on-site junior volunteer responsibilities. Students are not permitted in the Wildlife Center directly, if you could imagine, just because of communicable disease, with rabies being the highest concern. Those of us who do this hands-on triage, we do have to have advanced level certification and additional vaccinations, which are just so fun to keep ourselves protected while doing this work. We do offer after school opportunities. Our camps have a wildlife component built into them where the kids do rescue missions for wildlife, and we preset them up with radios to be dispatched to save stuffed animals and things like that. But direct hands-on with the wildlife, we cannot do for, again, keynote species for disease transmission. One of the things that we have that's coming up, which is really fun, if you happen to have children, is our baby shower is on site on March 21st. We have multiple rehab partners coming out. It is a free event to attend from 4 to 6 p.m. here on site. Our baby kittens will be on display. Baby turtles are coming. Our bat rehabbers are coming. We have a rehabber coming with two of her education outreach animals. I think she's bringing a cardinal and a crow. And so we do education presentations, but the little ones can't touch the native species directly. We do have a sulcata tortoise coming that everybody can pet just because kids love to pet animals. She is not a non-native, but she's coming with a rehabber who's bringing native baby turtles as well for exhibition. So we're always trying to give that connectivity. We also, Arlington County Public Schools has the Outdoor Education Center. I don't know if everybody knows about that. The land that APS owns out, I think it's technically still Fairfax County, and we partner with the outdoor
I think it's
education.
Fauquier.
It's Fauquier County. I was going to say it's a bit of a drive, but we partner with them. Some of our non-releasables are released on site there instead of here, and we do programs out at their site as well. So we're very much built into kind of the curriculum to the best of our ability, giving them that connectivity.
Very cool. So is there a particular wildlife rescue or recovery story that you'd like to share with us? Because I know we all love to hear it. You have, and for those of you who don't know Jennifer, she has a wealth of stories from her work here in Arlington and some really exciting things that she's done all over the country. So, but if you have a particular story for here in Arlington that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so I've had the great privilege of doing many a tremendous save. I think the thing that keeps my heart most restored is our wildlife work, many of the days. But one story that just sticks out to me was about a year and a half ago, we had a community member who was out at the National Cemetery and came across a very injured fledgling bird. What we didn't realize is this military member was visiting fallen comrades who had just been buried at the National Cemetery. That's why he and his family were there to pay respects. And he happened to come across an injured fledgling while he was there. And our officers, we responded. The bird came into our care. We were able to get her stabilized and off to rehabilitation. And he reached out later on. We were able to get a photo from the rehabber and share it with him that she was doing just fine and was set for re-release soon. And he wrote the most touching email about just how saving this baby bird in that moment was exactly the healing he needed as a military member in his service. He was like, I was going to do all the things, and it was a really hard moment for me. I had to really talk myself into going to pay respects, and to find something injured there, my heart just dropped. And to hear that I was able to be a part of that thing thriving and surviving, and to get this beautiful picture of what was this googly little injured baby bird. Because if you've ever found a baby bird, they all look like tiny little pterodactyls. Now as a very pretty juvenile bird, soon to be re-released to the wild. He was like, you have no idea how much healing this has done for me. And I was like, oh, oh, I was like, wildlife is just so special. I think that's exactly what he needed. And the email was truly touching. We all had a nice cry about it when the email came through. So it goes to like every life matters, but also the impact that being a part of the rescuer success for even the smallest of lives, how it can be so impactful to us as people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, for people who really care about animal welfare and wildlife protection, what are some of the meaningful ways that people in the community can support this work?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our Wildlife Center is a part of that conservation network. The organization invests upwards of $15,000 every year supporting in-home based rehabilitators in their training requirements, in their enclosure habitats, in their supportive supplies needs. Again, there is no funding avenue for this work. So we are the only place that is actually providing that kind of resource hands-on. Additionally, we're one of the only advocates that show up at a larger level when it comes to regulations, legislation, and that kind of work as well. But unfortunately, our wildlife work is not a part of our county funded contract. That is something that the league has taken on as a responsibility and as a part of the nonprofit part of the work that we do. I'm greatly appreciative of the investments that they've made. As animal control, I don't know what we would do if this resource didn't exist. Like, where would those thousands of lives go every year? But it is currently just donor funded, our wildlife center.
Well, I'd like to open it up to our guests. Are there any questions that you guys have for Jennifer?
Hi there. My name is Alex. First of all, thank you so much for arranging this, and it's really endearing to see people who care about wildlife. It's like it breaks my heart in a good way. I have a question. Do you have a hospital, wildlife hospital, where you triage patients and
Yes.
where is it? I couldn't find it on Google.
Yeah, so it is a part of the Animal Welfare League of Arlington, so it's on site here at the shelter. As Chrissy mentioned, we're only one of 4 animal shelters in the country who have an on-site wildlife triage center. And so it is towards the rear of our parking lot. When you drive into our parking lot, you see a very large sign that says Wildlife Resource Center. And it has a logo that has a deer, a raccoon, a bunny, and a bird versus our standard dog, cat. But it is here and on site. It is one of those things that as it grows, we hope to get the word out more and more. It seems like most of the community knows to call us, but then we still will see people post on social media, I found an injured rabbit, what do I do? And then I'm always brightened to see the 12 comments below that are like, call animal control, call the shelter. But they do come in here on site here at the league, and we're located down on South Arlington Mill Road in the Shirlington community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about the you let's see, was it 2 Christmases ago when the owl got into someone's house? And there were some great videos that I think were really helpful in bringing awareness to the work that you all do. And I'm wondering if you're always wearing a body cam when you're doing this work so you don't miss any of these amazing moments.
No, Robert is on the call. He's actually AWLA's new Chief Development Officer. Our development team wishes we were, because I can't tell you the amount of times I've done something cool and then looked around and been like, did anybody see it? Did anybody see it? Every once in a while, it just, you pull off something highly athletic. And you're like, oh my goodness, if I could just have a video of this. I was talking to someone recently about a dog that got loose at the airport, ended up running down GW Parkway by Gravelly Point. And I chased her into the Potomac, was able to pull her out of the Potomac. And I looked around and there was no one there. And I was like, oh man, this was really cool though. No, we don't wear body cam. Sometimes community members in that situation, actually, the community member took the video of the officer in their home catching the owl. And so thankfully we had proof we did it. It's also not instinctual as an officer to get your phone out. And so sometimes we just, because you're moving so quickly, your brain forgets to take a picture or a video. So sometimes I've gotten animals out of really tricky situations, like a deer stuck in a soccer net. And then I come back and I'm like, oh man, I was out on a call with a deer for the last hour. And they're like, a picture. And I'm like, oh, I forgot. I took it. No evidence that it ever happened. Oh, gosh darn.
Right. Put that body cam on your development wish list then.
I know, GoPro on
Yeah.
It would be really funny. We would also have to do the outtakes version of the GoPro. For sure. But wildlife keeps us on our toes. There was a video that went viral internationally during the start of COVID, because to your point, Christy, people were home, so suddenly they were seeing wildlife more. So you all actually improved their live outcome. During that year, we were astronomical. Those 2.5 years, we were astronomically successful at getting to animals when they were first critically injured because people were home to see it. And thankfully, a community member who normally would have been at work was at home when a fox kit came into her backyard with a peanut butter jar completely over its head. So it was stumbling around in her backyard with a peanut butter jar completely sealed over its head to its neck. And she called, and I got out there and thankfully was able to get the jar off of his head. And he was not hypoxic. But there's a video of me feeding him, syringe feeding him, and being like, your mother, all she wanted to do was introduce you to the neighborhood, and you put your head in a peanut butter jar, and now I have to go find her. And he's just like drinking out of the syringe the whole time. And we have a video of them getting reunited. And I have a friend who lives in England who was like, how are you on our news talking to a fox kid? I was like, we get great video just every once in a while. And that owl one was one of the special ones because
That
it
was a
happened to
great one.
perfectly perch itself on their Christmas tree. Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there anything else, Jen, that you'd like to share with us? Any news from AWLA? We focused a lot on the Wildlife Center and just want to make sure while we have everybody together that we're getting the latest and greatest.
Yeah, the league is really special for a lot of reasons. And one of the things is the community that we serve. And we couldn't do it without Arlington. Arlington County has an astronomical adoption rate. We're very, very lucky. People here in the community come down, they want to adopt shelter animals. I run into community members every day that tell me about beloved pets that they either have or have had that they adopted from the league. AWLA is just over 80 years old, and so we are one of the longest standing nonprofits here in the community. And we just are so appreciative. One of the things that we have the unique ability to do is create space for homes. And so every year we transfer in over 1,000 animals from other shelters throughout different parts of the state who don't have access to the resources that we have. And so I think when people think about AWLA, we like to think about the local impact, but I would just highlight that this organization has a regional and state and national impact that I think some community members aren't aware of. Again, those are animals that would be euthanized in other shelters due to lack of space or resources. Some of them have advanced medical needs, but we have an on-site veterinary team and veterinary clinic, so we're able to provide that advanced care. And the community members love them. Every time we bring them in, you all come down here and you welcome them into your homes day after day. I think it makes us really special and unique. A lot of the animals in our care have a very long storied history, but it's really an important thing that we create those opportunities for them to get families. And so we have that reach, and the biggest part of the state that we transfer animals in from is the Southwest part of the state, where we do a lot of hands-on operational support of sheltering, field response, animal control, and creating pathways for animals to get adopted. So I just wanted to highlight that part of the work. We also have a kitten college. We are the founders of the kitten college in the country. So we have a neonatal center for kittens. Kittens are actually the most at-risk population in animal shelters, kittens under the age of 8 weeks all across the country. But here we have standby tremendous fosters who will do bottle feeding and hands-on raising. So when people come and adopt our kittens, they always are like, how are they so social? And I'm like, they've been hand raised since they were 3 days old. You're never going to find a more social, outgoing kitten than the ones that come out of our kitten college. And then to donors and people who have supported the league, because I'm sure some of you on the call already have. The really important part of the work that we love so much is our community outreach. So we supply hundreds of thousands of pounds of pet food every year to community members, so pets can stay in their families, through our pet pantry, our mobile delivery that went out this morning, actually, for the month of March. We have homebound community members who get food support services from us. Spay neuter, we have a clinic that opened at noon, and the spots will be gone within 30 minutes for 150 pets for a low-cost clinic. Yes, just a week from now. AWLA is
How often do you do that?
We will do it at least monthly. There's a few months where we do 2 every month, and our spots are gone within 15 to 20 minutes for over 100 pets.
Wow.
So again, the resource gap need for access to veterinary care, including just simple preventatives, is still so high here in Arlington. And AWLA is just working to patch every hole that we can to keep pets and their people together.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you use volunteers to help make all of this happen. Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot. Steve, can you tell us about what you do as a volunteer for AWLA? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I've been associated with the shelter for about 30 years. I started out as a dog walker and doing various other special events. And after COVID and after I retired, I started doing pet pantry, just like Jen. And every Wednesday I come in and we have, huge bags of dog food, dry, wet, and I repackage that into smaller, packages. And every day that goes out to the community. Um, and I mean, I have to say, it's a pleasure working there and being a part of it because not only are the resource officers, but all the other staff of the adoption side. Um, it is so much fun to work there because they are so caring and they have is the best interest of the pets, the dogs, cats, small companion animals, just the best interest of them. And to see that and to see these dogs that may have been there for a while, but they'll go out to foster to try to, socialize. Everything is done to make sure that that dog can be or that cat can be adopted. And I think it was last year, it was like 97% adoption rate. I mean, it's an incredible it's the standard for no-kill shelters. You can't get much better. I mean, the only animals, unfortunately, I think that are, euthanized are the ones that are either unhealthy or have just cannot be rehabilitated. But everything else, if there's no time, when I first started, it was about 2 weeks. When I was a dog walker, you didn't ask if the dog was gone the next time you came because you didn't want to know the answer. And over 30 years, the mentality and everything has just changed to where there's no time limit. They'll put the dog out to foster. They'll do everything they can to keep the dog in a proper state of mind so that he she can be eventually adopted. And like I say, a 97% adoption rate, you can't get much better than that.
No.
So
Outstanding.
it's a great place. It's a great place. I love coming in.
Well, and thank you, Steve. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I wanted to hear that volunteer perspective. Jennifer, we so appreciate your time. And everyone, thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us for another conversation like this soon as we continue to connect people to the causes and organizations in our community. Oh, thanks, Jen, for sharing your contact information. And if today's conversation sparked your interest in supporting the Animal Welfare League or learning even more about their efforts, we're happy to make those connections, or you can reach out to Jen directly. Again, thank you for being with us today and have a great weekend.